Good evening, Steeler fans. Welcome to another Wednesday night on Behind the Steel Curtain Radio. If it's Wednesday night, you know it's Know Your Enemy with me, Geoffrey Benedict. As always with me, Mr. Shannon White. Shannon, how you doing today?
I'm doing awesome. Just ready to talk some Steeler football and with our upcoming Saints when the Saints come marching in, baby.
And with us to talk about the New Orleans Saints, Terrance Copper. How's it going, man?
How y'all doing, man?
Oh, doing great. Well, we're having a good night. We're having fun. We came off a bye week, so the Steelers didn't lose. We're all a little happy right now. Not having the best of seasons, but we talk about two teams here that have had a lot of success with two superstar Hall of Fame caliber quarterbacks now having a year where both of them are struggling to win games. What's it been like in New Orleans with this sudden drop-off in wins?
You know what? We've been struggling in a lot of different areas. When it comes to turnovers has been a corporate. Not tackling well in the secondary. Not getting pressure on the quarterback some games, well, a lot of games. And early in the season, we was getting out physical up front. So we're doing all the things that we need to do to lose. But we have a great roster. We have a great roster. We got some good ball players on that team. I feel like we got a good coaching staff as well, but we're still doing the little things that's allowing us to lose games.
I was noticing with the game Monday night against the Ravens, I've been impressed with the Saints defense. They shut out the Raiders 24-0, and they just shut down Devontae Adams, which is not easy to do. And so I was expecting that game to be a real physical, low-scoring game against the Ravens, and they held their own in that first half, and in the second half, the Ravens kind of imposed their will. And that's like the first time I've seen anybody wear down the Saints defense in the second half, but it was because the offense they struggled to sustain anything. And I think the defense just kind of wore down. But I say that the Saints are going to start Andy Dalton again. How is Andy Dalton being received this year? I mean, is people, happy that he's the starting quarterback, or are they wanting to see Winston, or what's the feelings around New Orleans?
It's mixed reviews. Andy Dalton honestly is running well. Besides this game just passed, we didn't get a lot of third downs at all. That's part of the reason why we got wore down from the Ravens, because we couldn't sustain drives. We couldn't stay on the field. We was getting off on third downs. They was getting us off the field, so it was putting a lot more pressure on the defense. But it's a lot of mixed reviews with Andy Dalton. Of course, you have some people that want Winston to get in and play, but I feel right now Andy Dalton is running the show pretty well. I'm not saying he's the perfect quarterback. He's not the perfect quarterback, but he has command of the offense. It's just we got to be consistent. We're not a consistent team right now, and that's all the way around the board.
Do you expect Jarvis Landry to play in this game? I kept looking up things and saw that last week he wasn't coming back for the Monday night game. Has that changed at all for this game, or is the short week keeping him out?
I don't know yet, but I'm really leaning towards that he may end up playing. But I just don't know right yet. I don't know.
He loves playing the Steelers. He loves playing us.
I was talking to GB before the show. I can't say his name. Lave? Yeah. He is like the best young route runner in the NFL. I mean, of all the rookies, and there's a lot of good rookie receivers this year, his balance, his footwork, his keep acceleration in and out of his breaks, he looks like a 3-year veteran. I mean, I couldn't believe the amount of separation he was getting against the Ravens, Peters and Humphreys, and they're excellent cover corners. Has he exceeded your expectations thus far?
Yes, he did. He definitely exceeded my expectations, because honestly, when we drafted him, I felt like we should have drafted Williams, the kid from Alabama. But I felt like Chris Olave still was a great pickup. One thing about what he does, his route running, you hit it right on the head. His route running is amazing for a rookie, not just for a rookie, but just for a receiver anyway. I've never seen a rookie come in and not even forget about the separation that he's getting. I'm looking at the other details in his routes when it's cover 2 and you got an outbreaking route, but you sit it down in the hole. Certain things like that, the stuff that he's doing is like you said, it's like that of a veteran, but he's a rookie. And usually when you're a veteran, you start understanding the game the way he's understanding it. Usually you're not in your prime that much longer because you got the experience. So now you playing more mental games and you're understanding the game more, but you're still in your prime, but not as much, not as long once you really start grasping the game like that. He's grasping the game like that, and he's just a rookie. So it's his ceiling right now. You don't know where his ceiling is at and how good he really could be because of how well he's picking up the game mentally. And you add that in with his tools and his attributes, how fast he is, how quick he is. You just don't know how far he can go.
Now we talk a little with the receiver room, man. I've got to bring in Michael Thomas, who looked like he was ready to bounce back and really have another big season before his injuries. And then you have Jarvis Landry missing since week 4. And like, it just feels like if you had Olave, if you have Michael Thomas, you have Jarvis Landry, this offense was really set to be something where you just can't cover these guys. Olave sitting with those two would have been crazy. And now it's just Chris Olave. And you're gonna give up yards to him, but as long as you keep him from really killing you with big plays, you're gonna shut this offense down most of the time. How much different you think this season is if Michael Thomas, Jarvis Landry, and Chris Olave had all played like every game so far?
I think it'd be very different. Not even with just those 3 guys playing, but if you add Winston back in the mix. Remember, Winston is our starting quarterback. He wasn't the second string. He was our starter. And he got injured as well. So usually when your number 1 quarterback goes down, offensively, you're going to struggle, usually, if you can't run the ball. Because early in the season, we couldn't run it. We couldn't. So then you put more pressure on Andy Dalton to make plays, which he did. He didn't do a bad job. I mean, he had his turnovers, but, just all around, if we had those 3 receivers in at the same time, and also, but you got to add Winston in with them. At the beginning of the season, we was looking at deep in the playoffs or getting to the Super Bowl. I'm not going to say win the Super Bowl, but getting to the Super Bowl. That's what we was feeling like, deep in the playoffs. We was excited about this year coming up. But now we're getting plagued with injuries. It's not starting out the way we want it to go because of our record. I don't think we're number 3 in our division. It's right now it's tough times right now. We're not used to this. We're not used to this type of Saints team. We're not used to losing like this. But like I say, I mean, it is what it is at this point. We just got to try to figure it out and turn it around.
One of our favorite teams to root for, and when the Steelers, as long as they ain't playing the Steelers, is always liked the Saints, and was a big Drew Brees fan. I mean, just for what he meant to the NFL, to the Saints, and to the community. And you hate to see the guys you've loved to watch get older and have to, ride off into the sunset like, Drew and Ben. But this year in the draft, I thought that the Saints might pull the trigger on a quarterback because I wasn't sure how much faith they had in Winston. And, of course, they went, another direction. But you have Kamara, who he was so dominant and, so unstoppable with Breeze. But now teams are really keying on him because, that's their number 1 weapon. And then I was talking about getting Thomas. I thought, well, get Thomas back, that's going to help because he's such a physical receiver that, regardless of the quarterback, he can really dominate. But now I don't know if Thomas is ever going to play for the Saints again. To me, it's like it's always some injury, and it's almost like, it's predestined that he's going to want out of New Orleans. And then you wonder, what's going to happen with Kamara. Was you surprised that the Saints didn't look at a quarterback, or did you agree with that decision in the not taking one in the first?
Well, if you remember, we was actually trying to go after a quarterback. I want to say, I forgot the name of the quarterback we was trying to go after him, but we didn't actually get him. And so I feel like Winston was our guy. I don't think you had to go into the draft this year to grab a quarterback. I didn't think you had to, because I felt like Winston was the guy to kind of step in and take over Drew Brees' shoes. Because if you think about this, before Winston got hurt last year, he was on his way to Pro Bowl season. He had 14 touchdowns and only 3 picks. So if you look at it as an organization, you're going to say, you know what? This guy probably would have had a Pro Bowl year. Let's see what he can do. And then you still got a veteran backup with Andy Dalton, just in case something did happen, which it did. So I was fine without them going for a quarterback in the draft. I was fine because I felt like we had a stable quarterback with Winston and with Andy Dalton backing him up. I felt like that was secure. You had a good starter, and you had a guy coming in to back him up if we had to do that. So I was fine with not going with the quarterback in the draft.
I think that's interesting. And this is a good topic to talk to about with the Saints, is because the Saints had really great quarterback play from Drew Brees, who took a few seasons to really get going, to really learn the NFL game. And then he took off, obviously left LA because I've left the Chargers because they were giving up on him. And then he comes to New Orleans and just dominates. Now you've got a guy, we're talking about Jameis Winston, who came in early, had some struggles, took some time, and now is looking like a guy where teams are really still saying, like, hey, is this a guy who's going to put it together a little bit later than, maybe you would have liked or teams thought he would? Is this a thing in the NFL now where maybe teams need to give rookies a little bit more time than they are? Because a lot of teams are throwing him in, wanting, like, even the Steelers, man, we're throwing Kenny Pickett in here, and it's clear he's throwing all these interceptions. There's reads he's just not making. There's NFL stuff he's just not ready for. And I keep thinking, man, like, fans are saying we need to play him to see if he's the guy. But it's like, well, what if he's not the guy now? But you give him a few years, let him adjust to the NFL, let him get up here, matched with NFL speed, and he becomes the guy. And then you've let him go, and he's somewhere else pulling a Drew Brees. I just wonder how much of this NFL, especially how defenses are today, the offenses, they're complex enough. Is this a situation where the NFL kind of needs to give rookies more time, especially a quarterback?
I think it all depends on the situation. And when I say the situation, you look at it like this. If a rookie comes in and you start playing him right now, and you kind of talked about it, if he comes in and he's not ready, and he comes in and you start playing him, you could kill his confidence. Especially if he's throwing a lot of picks. He's just not ready yet to play. Yeah. So you can really kill his confidence. But then you got some organizations like, okay, let's throw him in the fire so he can get adjusted to it, so he can make these mistakes and he can learn from the mistakes. So I'm okay with both of them, because I understand both sides of them, where he can learn from the mistakes and get better on the fly as he goes, especially when you don't have anybody else behind him that's going to help him, that's going to back him up. So sometimes I'm okay with that, but it all depends on the mentality of the quarterback. If he's mentally tough and can handle tough games and handle a tough crowd, handle tough media when you're playing bad, I say put him in the fire, see what he can do. But if he's not mentally strong and can handle that, you got to be real careful with those type guys, because you could really kill their confidence instead of actually helping them out.
That was a beautiful comment, because I agree totally. It depends on the personality of the player. It depends on their maturity level. Can they handle, some bad press? Can they handle some bad results? But there is no perfect outline, or set in stone way to handle these quarterbacks. I think the 5-year rookie deal for first round quarterbacks kind of has accelerated, how fast you want to get them in there now, because you want to try to build that team around that guy while he's on that rookie contract. But you see how Geno Smith is finally found his comfort zone with Seattle. Being a West Virginia Mountaineer fan, I've always pulled for Geno, And I'm really happy to see him finally find a home where he's comfortable. And he is looking incredible. I think 73%, completion rate. I mean, percentage. I mean, that's incredible at the NFL level. And he's playing so well. So, even, Winston might, like you said, gets healthy, get those weapons around him. He's missing Thomas, missing Landry, and them guys. And he could really flourish like he started to last year. But one of the things I wanted to ask is moving over to the defense, big Demario Davis fan.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I've always really liked him. And watching the Saints defense, I kind of get the feeling, I don't watch him like you do all the time, but is he kind of the leader of that defense? Is it Cam Jordan? Who is the Saints leader this year, and who do they look to?
Well, it's three of them. It's Davis, it's Jordan, and it's the Honey Badger.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
You got three of those guys that can play ball, that are veterans, that been in the game, that been in the league for a little while, and they know the game of football. And defensively, those three guys are the leaders on that defense. So, like you're saying, yeah, those three guys, they're the guys.
So, what is the weakness of the Saints defense? What is it when we're dealing with a Steelers team that is struggling to move the ball, get first down, score any kind of points? We have 0 games where this offense has scored more than 2 touchdowns so far this season. Like, where is the point on this defense the Steelers can attack?
Look, I'm gonna tell you something. We're great with the run game. We're great when it comes to stopping the run. Of course, when we played the Ravens, that was a little different.
That's a different run game. That's a different animal.
Yeah, but where we struggled a lot consistently throughout the year is a lot of explosion plays. We give a ton of explosion plays up in the secondary, and we don't tackle well in the secondary consistently. Now, of course, there's other little things that may pop up, but I'm just talking about the most consistent factor of why we're getting beat a lot defensively is because we're giving up too many explosion plays and we don't tackle well in the secondary.
Okay.
Why do you think that is? I mean, as far as, because I remember the Saints defense, even last year, they were very strong in the secondary and they prevented big plays and they tackled well. What changed?
Well, we're beat up right now in the secondary. We got guys that's out. Lattimore hadn't played all year. Well, I ain't gonna say all year, but he got injured. He's been injured for the last few weeks. So then we get rid of one of our corners. We send him over to Philly. We send him over to Philly, and he's leading the league in interceptions, if I ain't mistaken. And then you had May. He was injured. Our safety May. He was injured for a little while. So a lot of different factors played into that. But at the end of the day, it doesn't matter who's injured. The next person has to step up and get the job done. And that's one thing that we were struggling with.
Yeah, I'm looking across the names and I'm like, there's a lot of really good names in that secondary.
We got a great roster. We do.
Yeah, they're just not on the field.
Right.
Are there any players you are expecting to get back on this defense this week that you think will make a difference, or anyone out? Any real more recent updates Steelers fans should be looking out for?
You know what? Honestly, I feel like the guys that are there now are our guys. We got a rookie corner. He's doing well. That stepped in, but I think our guys are that Raider game. That Raider game, I think our defense turned it around. I think we turned it around as a team, that Raider game, defensively. But when you go up against a Ravens team, it kind of sets you back. It makes you feel like you're set back because of the type of style of offense they run. But I was watching that Ravens game, and I was like, man, how in the world do you stop this run? Because if you notice it, they overload into one side, let them overload to the left side, and that whole left side is blocking down. They down blocking, and they pulling their guard and the tackle from the backside, going the opposite way, getting great angle blocks on these guys. And then you have good running backs they have, but then you throw Lamar into the mix. Like, it's almost impossible to stop that run offense, unless you really got some guys out there that are very fundamentally sound, technique sound, understanding, reading your keys. Everything got to be right to stop that type of run game. So I still have high hopes for the Saints. I think we're on the right track defensively. I just feel like when you play the Ravens, that's totally different. It's just different.
I can tell you the Steelers' approach has been consistently, they just tell TJ Watt, go hit Lamar Jackson no matter what happens. Go straight at Lamar. And we had games we beat them where I think Gus Edwards ran for like 160 yards on us. And we still won where they're doing running plays and he's running right where TJ should have been defending. And TJ's just running up and pushing Lamar Jackson to the ground. Lamar's I'm going like, come on, guys. Like he's hitting me every play no matter what. Well, we would love it. We'd watch it. We'd be like, yes, because as soon as they stop the run for like one play, the drive's over. Because Lamar was out of his mind. He was so angry. He was good. It's kind of a bit of a dirty defense, but that's how the Steelers. I love that's one of my favorite things about that rivalry right now is how the Steelers play Lamar Jackson is just tell TJ Watt hit him every single play. And just hope he gets his head out of the game.
And
really hope they do.
By the way, that is to me, I feel like that is the best rivalry in football. And I know the Cowboys and the Redskins, that's like a long going rivalry.
Oh, yeah.
But the best rivalry is the Steelers and the Ravens, hands down by far. It's physical at those rivalries.
Yeah, it's not like the old days. You turn on that like 2008 playoff game. That thing was insane. They were just, you can't even play football like that anymore.
That year. I was in Baltimore that year.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah. Yep.
You probably have some very different memories of that game than we do.
Look, we got beat 3 times by Pittsburgh that year. Twice in the regular season and once in the playoffs.
And otherwise, that would have been your Super Bowl. That would have been you guys. Absolutely. Yep. Whoever won that, like, we go into that. We were talking. We're like that. Whoever wins this game it's over. The only way they don't win is if they come out so beat up they simply just can't. You just can't feel the team.
Right.
Oh man. Okay, now I don't even remember what we're talking about. I'm getting all fired up remembering that game. Shannon, you got a question?
Yeah, I was wanting to start talking about Steelers and Ravens.
Yeah,
and it picked Terrance's brain there a little bit. But now another thing we was talking before the show is the Saints drafted Penny.
Trevor
Penny, yeah. The offensive lineman.
Yeah.
And now has he played any this year? Or has he been injured all year on our? I can't remember.
He's been beat up.
Was he? Yeah, has he played at all? I was looking just see if he played at all. I don't think he's played much at all.
I haven't seen a lot of them.
Yeah. With this is the question I was going to ask. It just popped in my head because I was talking about TJ Watt. If TJ Watt is returning this week, right? I told you before the show, the Steelers only the Chiefs have a better record from 2017 than the Steelers when TJ Watt is healthy and plays more than 50% of the snaps. And when he plays less than 50% of the snaps, the Steelers are like 2-12-1, which means there's like a 55% win percentage drop off when TJ Watt is out. If he comes back, and it's looking like he's coming back, who do the Saints have? Is that to be the right tackle? I think that's Ramczyk?
Yes, sir.
Is that Ryan Ramczyk? Is that a matchup you are comfortable with, or do you think TJ Watt could be a factor that really swings this game?
Look, I'm not comfortable with any matchup with TJ Watt. Regardless of how good our O-lineman is, we still got to give help. And when I say help, I'm talking about you still got to have your running back over there chipping. You may have a tight end chip before he go out for a pass. You got to keep him uncomfortable. And that's the biggest thing. TJ Watt is a great player, and I think it'll be a tall task to ask your tackle to block him one-on-one all night without giving him help. Yeah. And I'm not got to help him every single play, But certain plays, when we got to hold on to the ball a little longer and we got to take a shot, that's when you got to give him some help. Now, quick game stuff, he can block him quick game stuff. But when it comes to throwing the ball down the field and we need some time, you got to help. You got to chip with the running back coming out, or you got to put a tight end over there to help out as well. So TJ's just a good player, man. I wouldn't go one-on-one with him the entire game at all.
Well, the Ravens, Justin Houston had like one of the all-time great Monday night performances, and the game was like, I think he had 3 sacks and an interception and a few tackles for losses. I don't remember who was Houston going up against.
I don't remember because I want to say he was switching sides, if I'm not mistaken.
I think he did some, yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know if he got any of them against Ramczyk, but one funny thing about Ramczyk is him and TJ grew up together.
Wow.
And they were drafted 2 positions apart in the first round.
Wow.
Watt went 2 picks after Ramczyk did. And so they're childhood friends. And if that's who that they're matched up, that'll be interesting.
It will be interesting. But now, guess what? You give me more. You give me more confidence that we can get him blocked since he may know his game.
Yeah.
So that gives more confidence.
Yeah, that'll be a fantastic matchup if they get that. That'll be fun to watch. Mm-hmm. Shannon earlier mentioned Demario Davis. I wanted to swing back to him because he is having a really good season. I think he's got like 7 sacks right now. Mm-hmm. He's having what Steeler fans will know what I'm talking about here, but he's having kind of a Vince Williams season. He is making a lot of plays in the opposing backfields. Mm-hmm. Is this a different usage they're doing? Are they blitzing him a lot? Is this just the scheme just working this year in his favor? Is this a development in his game? What's causing this sudden explosion of sacks where he has more sacks through half the season than he's had in his career, like in any season?
Well, I know last year he had a great season last year.
Mm-hmm.
Last year, he was that run stopper. He was that guy last year. So this year, coming into this year, after coming off the season he came off last year, I wouldn't expect anything differently for him to continue to grow as a player. I also think that I think it's a little bit of both. I think he's grown as a player. I think he's gotten better as a player. But I also feel like we may be triggering him a little more, blitzman as well, because early in the season, we couldn't get to the quarterback with our front four. We didn't have, I want to say it was a while before we got our first sack, so we.
I think we froze, ain't we?
Yeah, I think we lost him. Hopefully that will work itself out. Oh gosh. All right. We'll if he comes back, we'll be right back with him. But while he's out there, Shannon, what do you think the Steelers' biggest key to winning this game would be?
Well, do you want to take the break now?
This is great. This is great television right here. Yeah, let's do a little thing. We'll cut it later.
Yeah.
All right, that's our guest, Terrance Copper. It was great talking with him. We'll take a little break, and when we get back, Shannon and I will talk about the game from the Steelers side. So we'll be right back right after this commercial break. Oh my gosh.
He's back.
Hey. And we're back. Here he is. Terrance Copper is back with us. Hey,
you just froze, man. You just froze.
Look, I got knocked offline. I couldn't see anything.
Where is that? You're like, what is going on? All right, we got most of your conversation about Demario Davis there. I think we're good there. I think we're ready to jump to this. Do you have a prediction for this game?
Yes, sir.
All right.
I think it'll be a good game. I think both teams are desperate for a win. I think, especially with Watt coming back, I think their defense is going to be fired up and ready to go. I think he gives them confidence when he's on the field. So I'm going 24-21 Saints.
Yeah, you're picking the Saints to win. There's a question I really wanted to ask you. I'm going to ask you, even though I'm interrupting our normal schedule for how we get you out of here.
Mm-hmm.
But how much impact do you think the fact that the Saints played Monday and the Steelers have had a whole week off? How much of an impact do you think that'll have on the game?
I think they have a big impact on the game. Now, when I say impact on the game, it could be, the Saints are tired. We ain't had a bye week. It's a short week. We could come out flat. We could come out tired, which I don't think we are. And then on the other side, with the Steelers, the fact they had a bye week, I think preparation-wise, they're going to be good. Preparation-wise, so you got an extra week to watch these guys. But you can also come out flat because you haven't played in a week. Mm-hmm. So it could go both ways. But either way, I think it will affect the game. I just don't know how it's going to affect the game.
All right, man. Before we're going to get you out of here, but before we do that, we do have a super chat. Wes Hitchcock gives us $2 and says, "Welcome to BTSC, Terrance. Glad to have you." We second that. It's been great to have you on here talking the Saints.
Thanks for having me.
Talking a little bit of that 2008 Ravens team. And that was great as well, man. Any chance to talk about those teams, man? Wow. Mm-hmm. But before we let you go, you want to tell everyone where they can see more of your stuff here, more of your things. Let people know where they can find you.
So you can find me on Twitter at @tcopper, on Twitter tcopper10. You can also find I have Bleav in Saints podcast, and you can find that podcast on all your social media outlets. It's called Bleav in Saints, BLEAV in Saints. And also you can listen to 94.3 during college football. I also do the pre and the post game show for East Carolina University football team. So that's on 94.3 if you're in the area.
All right. Thank you so much for being on our show. Even with a little technical difficulties, we had a lot of fun. It was a great time having you. So we'll let you go now, but thank you so much for being on the show, Terrance.
Thanks for having me on, fellas. Thanks, you.
Man. Appreciate
Absolutely.
it.
All right.
Okay, Shannon. Now that we're actually alone.
The joys of live television.
Oh, isn't it great? Yeah, if TJ Watt is back and he's not, like last year at Green Bay, where like Aaron Rodgers outran him to the sideline. It was sad to see. That was a moment you're like, that's TJ's not 100%. Aaron Rodgers just ran away from him and didn't get sacked. If TJ Watt is actually healthy, he's ready to go. He's playing, and he's playing well. Do the Saints even really have a chance in this game, or do you think this is like the Steelers? Watt returns and the Steelers just roll a team?
I can't imagine the Steelers rolling anybody. I can't imagine them blowing out anybody with our offense right now. That's being brutally honest. I think TJ, they'll have to. I know he'll want to play the whole game. If he's on the field, he's that kind of competitor. But you've got to manage his snaps. You got to protect him from himself, and I would think maybe half the snaps on the high end, because he's going to have to work himself back into shape. But so that could be a great assist to the defense, especially with Kazee and the 3 safety sets that we've talked about. Don't look like William Jackson III is going to get to play yet, which I was hoping he would be able to maybe match up with Olave some.
Yeah.
It's a man and help, limit that. Because I think if you can stop Kamara and, put Jackson or somebody good in man coverage on Olave, I think that, we all hope that with TJ's return, the pass rush returns with him. Even if it's just the threat of TJ, it should help open up the pass rush for the other guys. But my main concern is, as I've said in my recent articles, is I'm afraid that they've had the bye, but I keep hearing it's execution. from Canada, and I hear it from Tomlin. And if they don't change anything, nothing's going to change. And I'm afraid that they're going to come out and we're going to see more of the same. And the Saints do have a stout defense. We heard Terrance say that they've given up some splash plays. Steelers don't do splash plays.
Yeah.
It's just the truth. I mean, right now, in Kenny Pickett's development, he's accuracy, he's anticipation, but he misses some deep reads. But, and I think a lot of that comes from a lack of trust in the offensive line. When you drop back here and you're getting hit within 2 seconds by 2 different defenders, like happened multiple times against the Eagles, that will kind of affect your ability to progress and go through your progressions and everything. So I just don't see the Steelers blowing anybody out. I think if Watt can play and play, even half the game, I think it could be a really low-scoring game. And hopefully the Steelers, again, I'm just looking for small incremental improvements. Like sustained drives, converting some third downs. Start with things you can control that are realistic, and then worry about points and all that kind of stuff. That'll come. But right now they gotta really. I have to see it to believe it, because what I'm hearing from Matt Canada is not giving me a lot of hope.
Yeah, it doesn't hurt that the player for the last couple of seasons who has been the main source of big chunk plays and big explosive plays is now a Chicago Bear. Claypool has not been a consistently good receiver, but he was the guy who would make those big plays with a lot of runs after catch. If someone was going to break it, it was Claypool. And I mean, he wasn't getting it done this season, but that's kind of the only guy they had that had done any of that. Let's talk about the offense a bit. I've talked a lot about this, and I've noticed this in years past. The Steelers get their rookies much more involved after the bye week, and they seem to fit in better. We see how Juju Smith-Schuster become a much bigger part of the offense after his bye week. We've seen that with Claypool. We saw it with Deontay Johnson. We've seen it across the board with a lot of players, and we've got some significant competitors on this team who are rookies. Whether they're in a small role or a big role, they've been producing. George Pickens is number one among any player on the Steelers who has, I think 10 targets or more in yards per target. If you take all of them, number one is Connor Hayward with 11 yards per target, because he's caught everything he's catching. He gets some yards afterwards. You've got Jaylen Warren, who's running for over 5 yards a carry. There are players here, and not to ignore the obvious one, rookie Kenny Pickett, them having a week to kind of get him more centered in this offense. Do you think we could see this offense improve from a standpoint of these rookies having the offense more geared to them, having a week to really reset this offense? Because there's been a lot of changes from what they worked on in the preseason till now, right? There's a significant number of changes on personnel. Do you think we could see this offense improve? Maybe not substantially, but maybe get 3 touchdowns in a game, maybe at some point here. Do you think we could see that just from these rookies growing?
I think it'll happen at some point. I think that with all these young guys have talent. It's obvious. And so there's going to be progress made, I believe, and improvement. I've said this week, I would hope that Canada would get with these young guys, especially Pickett, and really sit down and say, okay, what do you feel comfortable with? What do you like? What do you don't like? See, he probably hasn't done that with Pickett. He probably has no clue what Pickett likes or don't like because of the way the quarterback competition fell. And I hope that will happen, that Pickens now will be more of a focal point, that Freiermuth will have more of the middle of the field, and he'll have, take sometimes addition by subtraction. Maybe Pickett with less options, because everybody kept saying, oh, we all thought, man, look at how deep the skill position is for the Steelers. Well, sometimes you can feel like you can be overwhelmed by too many options. So simplify it. And hopefully now, that he'll look for you. You look at the Chiefs a lot of times, it was Hill and it was Kelsey and, whichever running back they were using. And that's who they used to dominate and mixed in the other guys. The Steelers need to develop I don't know what the word would be, but a pecking order about, that he's comfortable with Freiermuth and he's comfortable with Pickens and, then maybe whoever that third player is. And then they can kind of rely on them guys, have a go-to guy. Maybe it's Freiermuth because, he has that potential. And I think one of the small things that I've said in a recent article is if you play Warren, and everybody says, well, if Warren's starting, he won't be as effective, as the way they're using him. A lot of times they are using him out of a shotgun snap on the draws, and, he's hitting some stuff when they're behind, and he's getting some of his longer runs when, obviously the defense is focusing on the pass. But if just his explosiveness, his decisiveness, his acceleration, it all looks so different regardless of what part of the game it is than what Harris has been able to offer right now. When you're struggling to maintain blocks as an offensive line, especially run blocking, where the Steelers are atrocious, when you're struggling, having a decisive runner who hits that hole in the first 3-4 yards there, he takes 3 or 4 yards. Last year, if you remember, when the Steelers finally got a little offensive rhythm going, was when Harris was taking those 4-yard gains and setting up some 3rd and 2, 3rd and 3s. And then, Ben would hit something short because there was nothing, over the middle or deep. And they was able to have some offense, a lot more than they've had this year. And that's something that I think, you're not putting too much on Pickett. If Warren can be effective and get, 15, 20 rushes and average 3 to 4 yards a carry, and set himself up for some good third downs, I think that will take a lot of that pressure off Pickett to throw the ball 40 plus times a game. And they can start focusing on ball control and, time of possession and the positive things they're going to need while the defense tries to help keep them in ball games.
Yeah. Yeah. I agree a lot with that. One thing I want to add to this, and I found this shocking. I like looking at stats. I like looking at numbers. With Kenny Pickett throwing the ball, Deontay Johnson and Chase Claypool, when you combine their targets and their yards, and you take Najee Harris and Jaylen Warren and combine their targets and yards, Jaylen Warren and Najee Harris produced more yards per target than Deontay Johnson and Chase Claypool with Kenny Pickett throwing the ball. And that's incredible. That is like Le'Veon Bell would be like tops in targets and stuff, but he averaged like 5 to 6 yards per target. Antonio Brown was up over 9, right? Deontay Johnson was at 4.4 yards per target from Kenny Pickett. That's where he is right now. That's terrible. Chase Claypool was higher than that. But when your number 1 and number 2 receiver aren't producing as much as receivers, efficiency-wise, as your running backs, who aren't, they're getting dump-offs. They're not getting good passes. They're not going downfield and running good routes. Like, when that's not connecting, when you take a player like Claypool off the field and you say, you know what, maybe we're only going 2 wide receivers and we're going to go, we're going to have Zach Gentry out there as the inline tight end, and we're going to put Pat Freiermuth in the slot. Or maybe we'll move Pat Freiermuth around. At least you create some mismatch problems where the opposing team is sitting there saying, do we go nickel? Do we go with a 4-3 look and then put a linebacker outside on maybe, like you could put Pat Freiermuth out at the wide corner, put Deontay Johnson in the slot, and all of a sudden he's lined up against a linebacker. And that's a mismatch you can hit all day. You can hit that all day. He's going to burn that guy for 5-6 yards every play. Like, there's some things I think the Steelers can do that they weren't doing because their best talent was, in their minds, was Deontay Johnson, Chase Claypool, George Pickens. And when you look at those snap counts, it shows they were constantly putting the same formation out there. George Pickens, Chase Claypool, Deontay Johnson, Najee Harris, Pat Freiermuth. That's just who you're going to have out there every time. I think this is going to open it up, and I don't think there's going to be a lot of drop-off in production from the loss of Chase Claypool, and I think we could actually see more efficient play because, again, going with Kenny Pickett's numbers, 3 of the top 4 players, this is the whole season actually, 3 of the top 4 players for yards per attempt are Connor Hayward, Zach Gentry, and Pat Freiermuth. The 4th is George Pickens. All 4 of those players look to have greater opportunity in this offense with Chase Claypool gone. And I think there is, I don't want to say I think this offense is going to go off and suddenly be good, but I think there's a real hope for this offense being better than it has been, better enough that some of those losses where they kept it, the defense kept them in the game, but the offense just couldn't do anything. Now maybe with TJ Watt, you get a splash play or 2, and the offense has just enough juice to win those games.
You know, one X factor that we have to look at is Steven Sims. Sims has the quickness and the toughness to work that slot position. And last year they used Ray McLeod a lot there. And he converted a lot of third downs on just little, find that little zone area, and, complete that third down and keep the drive moving. If the Steelers will run some slants, I know they don't want to, nobody likes to run slants. I think Sims will do it. Freiermuth can do it. If they'll do that, work that middle, if they will I watch teams every week allow the running back to, if he ain't picking up a block or chipping, floating into the middle of the field and just a little dump off, and they get 5 or 6 yards. Steelers never do that. Ben didn't even, he hit Harris a lot in the flat last year, but he didn't hit him over the middle. It's there. It's open because, you can run your crossers and clear that out and then get a favorable matchup because Harris can't catch the ball. So can Warren. It sucks to struggle like they're struggling and not utilize everything at their disposal. That's one of the things I said this week is that they're not even using what they do have. We're talking about what they don't have. Well, you really don't know because they can't even use what they do have. So I'm hoping that, again, additions by subtraction, Sims can get in there. He said today in an interview, hey, I'm quicker than fast. But he's hard to handle in a short, small area. He's got a little bit of that AB-like quality right there. So I'm hoping that will open up the middle of the field and help extend some drives. And if you start getting some first downs and build some momentum, it'll give Pickett confidence. It'll give the whole offense confidence.
I agree there. You were saying the Steelers don't use what they have well. I really want to do something with that because the 2 worst players on this offense for yards per, it's not yards per touch because I'm taking targets and carries combined, are Deontay Johnson and Najee Harris. The 2 guys who lead this team in being the focus point of an offensive play, either targeted with a pass or handed the ball on a run, are Deontay Johnson and Najee Harris. And they are the 2 least efficient at gaining yards. They don't use what they have well. I with all this talk, there's a great comment here. I'm going to bring it up by Wes Hickok. You're getting on here. You're getting a second comment on with that for that $2. So congratulations, sir. But he says in the chat, Geoffrey, you guys sit here and break down what they should be doing, which many of us agree with. Why can't the Steelers coaches figure it out? Well, my answer to that would be it's a lot easier to sit here and say what the Steelers need to do than to actually pull it off. Pulling it off is significant. It's easy to sit here and say the Steelers should run the ball better. It's easy to say the Steelers should involve Pat Freiermuth more. But when you actually get into football and coaching it, that's not an easy thing to actually pull off. In the same way that other teams can sit there and say, yeah, okay, double team TJ Watt. Right? Like he said, you can't leave one guy blocking TJ Watt. Yet look at the numbers for people and how often they double team and how often they are double teamed. And TJ Watt is nowhere near the top of that list. And he continues to absolutely destroy teams. All last season, when he's Defensive Player of the Year season, teams couldn't find a way to double team him. The Steelers knew how to just stop teams from double teaming him. It becomes a lot harder in practice than it is just understanding we have to do this in order to win this game. And then they just can't do it. It happens all across the NFL. I think the Steelers right now, the coaches, there's a lot of blame to go on the coaches. But it's one thing to sit here and say, hey, they need to get these people involved. They need to find ways to do this. It's another thing to do it when the other team also can look at you and say, hey, we know what they need to do. Let's stop them from doing that.
I think part of coaching is accountability.
Absolutely.
We're hearing all these younger players who are new to the Steelers talk about poor practice habits, talk about, holding people accountable, the focus at practice, the tempo. There's just so much that keeps being brought up about practice. And, I know Allen Iverson wouldn't like this conversation, but I don't care about draft pedigree. I don't care about salary. If you practice hard and you're intense and you bring it at practice, you need to see the field. And if there's a guy that's, I almost said something I shouldn't, but he's halfway doing it at practice, then he should not be playing, or his time, his snap count should be affected. Because if a guy is just going through the motion and he's playing for next year's contract, and then you have somebody that's trying to start his career and he's showing that intensity, if not, what is the coaches doing? And by this point in the season, the coaches should be having these guys develop. They should be learning. They should be showing improvements in practice. I ain't talking about the starters. I'm talking about the depth pieces. Because one play in them depth pieces could be forced into the lineup. This week, Miles Jackson might not play. He's got an knee injury. Well, now guess what? You got Bush. You got Spillane. You're going to probably have to activate and play Mark Robinson. That ain't the optimal way of doing it. But you could have had him activated, playing special teams, and work him in 4, 5, 6 snaps a game, like the Steelers do at outside linebacker with Jameer Jones and Ryan Anderson. But no, they're stubborn, and they say, well, he might miss an assignment, or blow a pass coverage. Well, that's happening already. Yep. But the guys cannot truly learn the speed of the NFL game. Even preseason doesn't compare to a regular season NFL game. We all know that.
Mm-hmm.
And I just think that a rebuilding team in the situation the Steelers are in, yes, you try to win, but get these guys out there before they have to be out there, because then they're not ready. And it's easier to work them in a little bit when you have a full roster and everything. Now, of course, with Watt being down right from the beginning, that kind of put the Steelers on defense behind the 8 ball. So I'm not putting all the blame on the coaches. But if your depth is not progressing and learning, that does fall on the coaches. If they're not focused at practice and putting forth a good effort, that again falls on the coaches. So, I believe that it's a twofold problem. They lack talent. They let the foundation of the offensive defensive line crumble by focusing too much on skill positions for the last 5 drafts, at least 5. We'll just leave it at that. That falls on Colbert as well. And they allowed that to crumble by trying to do a quick fix and do the flashy skill position guys. And now it's going to take a while to rebuild those foundations.
I agree there. And not to harp on a point that I harp on a lot, too much here, but talking about practice habits, talking about the foundations, one of the things this team still seems to be lacking is leadership. And leadership comes from coaches, but it also, especially when you talk practice, that's players. We used to hear how much they talked about Antonio Brown's work ethic in practice, how hard he played in practice. And he dragged other players with him. If you weren't practicing hard like Antonio, you were going to be, because he was going to pull you to that. Marquise Pouncey, great leader. hard player in practice. Hines Ward was the same way, known for that. Those guys, when they're there, make an impact. I always go back to the great Steelers teams when they were in the playoffs, when they're winning. You look at those playoff records, you look at the team records, when they had both James Ferry on defense and Hines Ward on offense, the team won. And part of it was those guys were great leaders. And that kind of leadership works, especially when you're talking about practice, you're talking about development, you're talking about doing the things you need to do to fix the problems.
But you know that TJ Watt is a hard worker.
Yeah,
absolutely.
I mean,
that guy's he's a freak. He's a fanatic.
Cam Hayward. TJ Watt is getting in people's faces when their slock's been off, though. Like
I don't think Antonio Brown did either. I think he set an example, and I think they embarrassed guys. The guys were embarrassed if he didn't work hard.
Yeah.
But that goes back to the integrity and the character of the individual players.
Mm-hmm.
But I do think that there's a lack in the coaching department that, you can come in and say, hey, you're new to the team. This is Antonio Brown. We all know who he is. Mm-hmm. Look at this guy's work ethic. You emulate him. Mm-hmm. And we're going to be watching. Sometimes that's all you got to say.
And every time you saw Richard Neal on television, he was saying it. Yeah. Every interview he got, he was saying, look at Antonio Brown work. That's how you be good. This receiver's coming in. We're going to put him to work. He's going to see Antonio Brown work. He's going to do that work, and we're going to fix the issues they have. Steelers just got rid of Chase Claypool. One of the things they talked about was him being a bit of a distraction. And you're talking about the guy who has openly talked about the Steelers having, maybe we should have some music at practice. Maybe that would liven up practice a bit and get guys a little more moving around and motivated. And it's like, maybe you don't understand what you're talking about here, buddy. Maybe that worked. Maybe you're not motivated the same as other people, but you're definitely not leading the receivers in, hey guys, let's get out here and work harder. You're definitely not that guy. So we'll see. I think the Steelers are aware of it. I'm not sure the plan to fix that problem is in place. Let me say that. I think they know it's a problem. I think they want to fix it. I'm not sure they have the right plan in place. At least they haven't for the last couple of years. Mm-hmm. And that may require some coaching changes. That may require, maybe the new GM and the new personnel people, maybe they'll figure it out. Who knows? All right. We're running close to almost an hour here. We've been on. Shannon, let's get our predictions for this game in. I want to hear yours. Go ahead.
Well, we don't know for sure Watt's coming back, but we believe he is.
Yeah.
And we believe Kazee going to be in there. The bad thing is, looks like that Boswell may be going on IR with them signing Wright from Kansas City's practice squad. And he's been their most reliable offensive weapon, so that's concerning.
He is their offensive.
Yeah, it's just the par for the course this season.
Oh, it is.
I'm going to believe that there's still going to be struggles on offense, but I think we're going to see more Warren, and I think that's going to help. I think we'll see Pickens make a couple of big plays because I think they're going to scheme him where they've had this extra time in the bye week. They're going to scheme him open some and Freiermuth. And I think Pickett's going to look better. But with Watt's return, I'm going to say 20-17 Steelers.
I just want everyone listening to this show to know that Shannon White has faith in Matt Canada to scheme George Pickens open. Just want to throw that out there. Shannon. Oh, man. Okay. My selection, I'm going to go with the defensive touchdown. I think TJ Watt comes back. I think he was close to coming back in Philly. And I think in 2021, that was the game he would have came back and played poorly. And he's had an extra 2 weeks off, really, from that. So I think we're going to see TJ Watt back. I think we're going to see a defensive touchdown. I'm going to go 24-20. Steelers win. and TJ Watt's return, just to show everyone that TJ Watt, the Steelers should just be the Pittsburgh TJ Watts. I should just change the name right now because it's our only hope for winning. Like, legitimately, since 2017, people, it is a 55% difference in win percentage. I couldn't find a quarterback that important. Tom Brady? No. Ben Roethlisberger? Not even close. Drew Brees was actually, the team was better when he missed. It was weird. They won more games when he missed than when he was active, even though their quarterback play when he was inactive was terrible. It's just how the games lined up. But like, even Peyton Manning, all those guys, doesn't matter. When they missed, the team was not that much worse like we see with TJ Watt. It's crazy.
It sounds like you want him to sign JJ in the offseason and become the Pittsburgh Watts, playing in Acrisure Stadium. That's what you want.
Hey, I also want to say Heinz Field had a lot of great memories. Acrisure Stadium is cursed. I'm also going to say that.
Change back.
They're 2-6 at Acrisure Stadium. This place is cursed. Okay. All right. Those are our predictions. Shannon, what do you have coming up the rest of this week that you know of?
Just working on a mid-season rookie review article, and I'm going to throw in a mid-season grade on each guy. And so, it might be interesting. We'll see how it turns out. But that's all I got right at the moment.
I've got our Dave Schofield and our plans to get the Vertex out earlier this week failed. So that's coming. Look forward to that. And it is actually on William Jackson III. And I've got a lot of hope for this guy coming in. He look at the Vertex. You'll see what I mean. I think he could really be a benefit to this defense. Not like a Minkah Fitzpatrick level addition. I'm talking like a Steven Nelson. Like, if you remember what Steven Nelson helped this defense do, I think William Jackson III can be that kind of addition. And more than that, I think the biggest thing is once he's in there, he drops, we always say we have 3 like number 2 cornerbacks. Well, he drops one of those guys to number 3. And
you should have read my Glimmers of Hope defensive article. That's exactly what I said about Jackson. I talked about Steven Nelson.
Well, I did read it. I'm referencing it too. But I have that, and then I have to get my second half of the grades. I do the snap counts and grades articles during the season and after each week, and I'm doing those for the whole half a season, jumping in there, going by position this time. So you're going to see the controversial takes, like the Steelers have an average offensive line. I put that out there. That was very controversial. But we'll see. You can look and see what I have in store for the defense. You can find that out this week. All right. Everyone, thank you for being here. Thank you so much to Terrance Copper for coming on. He was a great guest. Had a great time talking to him. Former Raven. So, he only played for them that one season, but it was a big game.
Definitely.
Thank you so much for listening, everyone. Thank you, Shannon, again for being here. As always, everybody, have a great week, and let's go Steelers.